Hey guys, it's James and I'm back with another income ETF video, and today I wanted to compare SVOL with Qyld. Now SVOL is a fairly new income ETF and I want to go over and show you the website page. What we're going to cover in this video is we're going to go over to SVOL's website page. We're going to go and check out some of their dividend data and history compared to Qyld's over on Seeking Alpha. And then we'll come back over to my compound interest calculator and compare SVOL with Qyld with some of the standard retirement numbers, such as at the age of about 65 with anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million. And then we'll also vary the dividend yields and the growth rates and see what our outcome would be. So let's head over to SVOL's website page. SVOL is owned by Simplify ETFs. SVOL aims to provide an attractive income stream and source of diversification while seeking to avoid risks inherent in other income-producing asset classes. You come down to a snapshot of their fund overview. You take a look at their gross expense ratio, very in line with some of the other income ETFs, where other income ETFs will range anywhere from about 0.3 all the way up to about 0.6 and some even over 0.6%. You take a look at their 30-day distribution yield or 30-day SEC yield as of June 30th, 18.26%. Their distribution frequency is monthly, and their inception date is May 12th, 2021. So the fund is just over a year old, but they did not start paying out distributions until about September of last year. So we are not at a full year of distributions yet. If we come over to Qyld's web page as well, a very similar style fund where they are looking to provide a high income for you. They state that Qyld's purpose is to have a high income potential, distribute that monthly, and they claim that they have an efficient options execution method. Coming down to their inception date, you can see that Qyld is definitely quite a bit older. December of 2013. Their expense ratio is 0.6%, and they are saying that their distribution yield is anywhere, or their current distribution yield is about 11.68%, and their 12-month trailing yield is 15.1%. But if you recall, in December of 2021, they had that large distribution, about 2 to 3 times more than their normal distribution, which is kind of spiking this number. Let's come over to Seeking Alpha. Here is what SVOL looks like, their market performance, very typical of what you see for income ETFs, where if there isn't much market price appreciation, most of their asset gains are in their distribution yield paid to you in income. If you take a look at just a snapshot of their 12-month trailing yield, they are looking at a 13.39%. Let's take a closer look at their dividend payouts. If you take a look at their dividend payouts starting back in September of 2021, so not a full year of payouts. If you take a look at their average payout, it looks like they are paying out anywhere from 26 cents all the way up to 39 cents. So if you averaged all these 10 different payouts out, it comes out to be about 33 cents on average. That is anywhere from about a 14% distribution yield all the way up to about an 18%. So in total, if you averaged these 10 different payouts over the course of 12 months or 12 payouts, that's about $3.96 for an entire year per share. Now obviously the market price will fluctuate throughout the year, so that does change the distribution number on average over a 12-month period, but that's going to be anywhere from 14 to 18% for SVOL. Let's take a look at their actual distributions. If you take a look, like we said, anywhere from about 26 cents all the way up to about 39 cents. In the past 2 months has been a consistent 32 cents on the dot. And here is Qyld's Seeking Alpha page. If you take a look, again, very similar to SVOL, a lot of ups and downs. But if you take a look at their entire history, it has overall not appreciated in value for a very long period of time. let's take a deep dive into Qyld's dividend history. So if we were to take a 12-month average, that's about 21 cents per payout, or a total of $2.52 total per share of dividends. That comes to about a 12 to 13% dividend yield. So for our calculation, and if you're not familiar with this calculator, we're going to go ahead and put in some dividend yields for SVOL and Qyld. And where are we getting these actual numbers from? Well, we're going to get the numbers from their forward dividend yield. What is their expected dividend 12-month dividend yield? It's going to be about 16.79% for SVOL. And for Qyld over on their dividends and sub-tab dividend scorecard, 11.41%. So we'll go ahead and use that for our calculation. So we'll come back over to our compound interest calculator and put in these dividend yield numbers. These are the expense ratios for SVOL and Qyld. We're going to say that you are retired and you're not going to add any more monthly addition to your funds, and you are just going to receive those dividends. Now, the annual growth is tricky here. As you can see, taking a look at this collection of boxes here, the price performance on average for the past year, Qyld is down 19% and SVOL is down 15%. If you average the 2-year, 3-year, and 5-year growth, we're looking at about 7.5% and 4.8% negative growth for an average of the past 5 years. So what we'll do here is we'll change the growth around. And I know it's tricky. You can't put in here a negative 15% growth because I would not expect both of these funds to just continually go down negative 15% every year for the next 10 years. Or if we look at our long-term graphs, the next 20, 30, or 40 years, you can't expect these funds to drop 15% every single year. So let's kind of what we call in the engineering world, let's normalize these funds down to a more acceptable rate or long-term expected annual growth rate. So let's say we're going to go from 0% growth all the way down to negative 5% growth on an average basis. So let's go ahead and start with the 0% growth and see what that gets us. So with about an average 0% growth with no dividends reinvested. So that means the fund, it could go up, it could go down, but on average, the fund is not going to depreciate that much. Let's say you did not reinvest dividends as you are living off of the 16.79% dividend yield and the 11.41% dividend yield for Qyld. You're not reinvesting dividends, you're living off of them. If you had a $500,000 saved up over your working years, and let's say you were 65, let's see how long that would last for over the course of the next 10 years. We come over to this graph right here, our portfolio value. Your principal at 65 would be $500,000. Over the course of 1 year, you can see you would have lost about $3,000. Now you might think, hey, our growth rate is actually averaged to be 0. Well, you do have to remember that you have the expense ratio put in or accounted for. So you can see your portfolio value would go down slightly over the course of 10 years. Coming over to the income side of the graph, and this is taking into account our dividend yields for SVOL with that 16.79% projected forward dividend yield. You're looking at around about $80,000 per year over the course of the next 10 years. And taking a look at Qyld, you are looking at about $55,000 to $60,000 per year in Qyld. And then again, this over here, this is our long-term graph. So if you were able to live 20, 30, 40 years past retirement, this is what you would have if you did not reinvest the dividend, and taking into account the 0 average annual growth rate. This is what you would have over the course of a long-term retirement. And in Qyld, this is what you would have in your portfolio value without having dividends reinvested. And then coming down here, the last part of this calculator, you have dividends per year. If you wanted $1,000 in dividends per year, you would need this amount of SVOL and this amount of Qyld. If you wanted $50,000 in dividends per year, you would need almost $300,000 in SVOL and $440,000 in Qyld. And then this is monthly dividends, $100 a month in dividends, $1,000 a month in dividends, or $5,000 a month in dividends. This is how much you would need in these two securities. So let's come back over to and change some of our growth and contribution numbers. Let's say our annual growth was a little bit more conservative, and let's say it was about a negative 2.5% average per year over the course of a 10-year period. Well, this is what your portfolios would start to look like. You can see you would start to run into some trouble if you only saved up about $500,000. Over the course of 10 years, SVOL would be reduced to about $367,000 with no new addition, and all your dividends pulled out, and Qyld would be reduced to about $365,000. Now, this is the type of income you could expect with the numbers we have in the calculator. This is the type of income you could expect starting at about $84,000 in the first year for SVOL and $57,000 for Qyld. Coming down to 10 years later, you can see SVOL would have reduced $20,000 per year, and Qyld will be reduced about, $14,000 over the course of 10 years. If you do expect these funds to continue to drop, it looks like you might need a little bit more than $500,000 if you do want to retire comfortably. And coming over back to the portfolio value and the income graphs, you can see that this is what after 10 years, this is what your portfolio value would look like. And after 10 years, this is the type of income you could expect to receive. Now, do recall the purpose of this video was to compare SVOL with Qyld. Now, do remember SVOL is a fairly new fund, and Qyld has been around for almost 9 to 10 years. So there's a little bit more credibility with Qyld than there is SVOL. SVOL has not even been paying their dividend out for an entire 12 months. Even though their dividend yield does look a little bit more attractive, that might be something to consider when investing in an income ETF. And let's go ahead and see what our portfolios would look like. Let's say after the course of 10 years, you wanted to remain above 50,000 for Qyld and possibly above 75,000 for SVOL, just to be a little bit more safe because of SVOL's short-term outlook that we can see. Let's say if we had about $750,000 in SVOL and $750,000 in Qyld, with that negative 5% growth rate or negative 5% decrease in rate over the course of 10 years, it looks like you would be safe with SVOL and Qyld. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this analysis. This is the simple compound interest formula and calculating incomes off of the dividend yield and accounting for the expense ratios. Hopefully this sheds some light on what the future could look like with SVOL versus Qyld, taking some of the historical numbers and putting them into our compounding interest formula. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. If you want to see another comparison like this, head down into the comments and let me know which type of comparison you'd like to see. If you enjoyed that, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have a lot more income ETF videos and dividend stock analysis videos. And with that, thanks for watching.